Hey, free-to-play gang, welcome back to another video. I apologize that my face is so white, just that my screen is a little bit too bright, unfortunately. Okay, so patch 3.3.1 details are finally out. So we're gonna start off with the new Espers, obviously. As always, we have Hilda here, Hypnos 5-star flow type. Hilda is a controller who excels at inflicting poison and sleep. Now what we understand about poison and sleep is these two don't go well together at all, because when an enemy gets hit with poison, they wake up. Same with bleed as well, right? The moment they get hit, they wake up. So this part, I'm not super sure how they're gonna deal with this because it kind of don't make sense that much, but we will see. Okay, so ability 1 sleep type deals damage to one enemy based on Hilda's attack and defense, duration of debuffs on the enemy plus 1 turn, and inflict sleep for 1 turn. So the way I think this works is you will extend debuffs before inflicting sleep, so you're not gonna sleep twice, like for sleep 2 turns in one single hit. And second skill deals damage to all enemies based on her attack and defense. Again, inflicts sleep, speed down, poison, and then sleep for 1 turn. And then extends poison for 1 turn. Okay, so now my issue with this is that there are 3 debuffs here that don't make sense together. Okay, so number 1, you have poison, but at the same time you have speed down. So if that's the case, your enemy is actually not moving that much. But the thing is, when you poison enemies, you kind of want them to take a turn so that they can get hit by poison, right? So this is like a small thing. And like what I said a little bit earlier on, sleep and poison don't make sense at all, because the moment the enemies are hit with the poison effect, they will wake up from their sleep, which means then I have no idea, man. But I kind of feel like I know what is the solution over here. We will talk about that in just a little bit. Okay, now ability 3, Dream Interrupted, gains deep sleep for 2 turns. Okay, she gains this, alright? She gains it. She doesn't actually put herself to sleep, I think. It's just a golden rim buff that she has called Deep Sleep, which lasts for 2 turns. Now deals damage to all enemies based on her attack and defense again, inflicts defense down for 2 turns, and poison effects for 2 turns as well. Two poison effects for 2 turns. So that's 3 debuffs. And if an enemy's defense is below Hilda's, she inflicts another 2 stacks of poison on an enemy for 2 turns. So that's a total of 5 debuffs. She has 4 stacks of poison for 2 turns. Holy shit, that's actually quite a lot, because that is 16% of the enemy's max HP just like that. So her third skill is actually quite powerful. But the weird thing here is that, again, we have defense down, but defense down don't really work with poison effects. This don't really make a lot of sense in my opinion. I mean, yes, I understand that defense down is going to help your allies, but then are you really bringing Espers who need defense breaks at the same time you want to have poison effects? That seems kind of weird. Okay, it just seems kind of weird to me. Like a little bit of too many things that don't melt very well together, if you know what I mean. Now, here's a passive. This is huge, by the way. So Hilda's base defense scales with her accuracy. So if you have 100% accuracy, I believe this increases her base defense by 100% as well, I think. But it's only her base defense, okay? So do take note of that. And Hilda will not miss. This is important. She will not miss when inflicting debuffs on targets whose accuracy is not above her. So if she has 100% accuracy, enemies will never have accuracy above hers because there's a cap of 100%. So she needs to have 100% accuracy, and she will never ever miss any debuffs at all. She will not miss doesn't mean that she cannot be resisted, okay? So essentially with 100% accuracy, she will always land it on enemies even if they are negatively attuned against her. So yeah, do take note of that. Now, Deep Sleep inflicts sleep for 1 turn and poison for 2 turns at the start of an enemy's turn. At the start of an enemy's turn. Now let me explain to you why this is insane. Okay, so number 1, if you have deep sleep on yourself, all the enemies, right? Okay, let's just assume that you are super slow. Your Hilda is run with like 0 speed, right? All the enemies, whenever they take a turn, they're just gonna go straight into sleep and they're gonna get hit by poison. So I'm not sure whether are they gonna wake up and then get poisoned again and then go back to sleep again or what. But it does seem like you could perpetually put enemies in a permanent state of sleep and permanent state of poison as well, which is quite insane, right? If you run her super slow, I think this is actually quite broken, but she's actually a lot more broken at R6, which we'll get to in just a little bit. Okay, so her R2 status, a new effect is added to Dream Interrupted. Upon successfully inflicting poison on enemy with Dream Interrupted, inflicts another poison effect for 1 turn on them. So another 1 more stack of poison basically, right? Which it becomes 5 stacks of poison, which is insane. 6 debuffs on 1 single skill, defense break, and 5 stacks of poison. That's a lot, but I don't really think it's that necessary. Now her R4 has a 20% chance of ignoring resist when attacking. So right now this is not the same as won't miss, okay? So it's not a useless R4. So Hilda will never miss at 100% accuracy, and she also has a 20% chance of ignoring resist when attacking, which is, I guess, pretty good, right? So she's able to debuff a lot more consistently, which is nice. But her R6, take a look at this, right? A new effect is added, Dream Interrupted, gains deep sleep for 1 turn at the start of combat. So essentially, at the start of combat, you already have this buff. So whenever the enemies take a turn, right? Let's say the enemy is faster than you, they take a turn, they actually go straight into sleep for one single turn and they get hit by a poison as well. So I think looking back, the balance here is that they are going to get hit by the poison and therefore they will not get hit by the sleep when they take another turn afterwards. So assuming that your Hilda is like super slow, the enemy get hit by a sleep and poison right now, but when the enemy takes a turn again, they are not going to get hit by sleep and poison again, because, or rather they'll only get hit by poison because they will wake up from the sleep itself because they already had a poison debuff. Does that make sense to you? So I think that's like the balance over there, but this is so broken because this completely destroys the speed meta just because you have an R6. Like this completely destroys the speed meta, I think, because like I said, you start off with this one stack of this deep sleep and enemies are just going to get their ass stunned. And Jane Yu Yao is actually not a counter against her because the enemies will only get sleep, they will only fall asleep during their turn, which means because it's already way too late, the enemies already took a turn, they are already asleep right now. Now this is the part where things get a little bit scummy and it's necessary that she becomes R6 in my opinion, because while Hilda is under the effects of deep sleep, the enemy sleep won't be removed by damage. So this is so insane because this covers all of her weaknesses, right? Because like I said earlier on, she inflicts sleep and poison which don't melt very well together. I mean, okay, when enemies take a turn, they fall asleep and they get poisoned, that's fine. But the thing is, when they take a turn again, they are going to get out of sleep because of the poison that they already had. That's what I'm trying to say here. So the thing is, now with her R6, the enemies can actually be perpetually put to sleep this way. And this also explains a lot about why having speed down and poison would actually make a lot of sense, because you can keep them asleep for as long as possible, and after Ascension, you know, you also further sleep them, so sleep and poison would then make sense for her kit. Right now, prior to R6, it don't make sense at all. But there is also one thing that I need to add, which is even though her R6 seems to be extremely broken, this is potentially going to be easily countered by one big change in the light set, which we will talk about later on. So Hilda is actually really good at R6, but prior to that, I think she is decent, and the reason why I feel like she's full of poison debuffs is honestly because of Andras. I do feel like Andras and his ads, they are potentially going to be very hard to kill, and therefore it might make more sense to run Espers with poison, and that's why Hilda is here in the first place. So I think overall, from what I can feel about her kit, she's actually pretty good. Okay, so if you have like, let's say the brawler set on her, or maybe the relief set on her, she's always going to use her, okay, she has more chances of using her first skill, right? Let's say it that way, which means she will actually extend debuffs on the enemies very frequently, which is actually quite nice. So I think I have yet to test her out, but from what I can see right now, I think she's not bad prior to R6, but at R6 she is essentially quite disgusting, I think. Okay, now moving on to Adrina, Chantico. Adrina is a fighter Esper who excels at launching assist and pursuit attacks. She's a 4-star Inferno. Now she's kind of weird, okay? So take a look at this. Ability 1 Flame Splitter deals damage to one enemy based on her attack
and HP,
and gains 1 stack of red chili. That's all it does, right? So just gain 1 stack of red chili. Ability 2. This is what makes her a little bit weird. Now Adrina's AP decreases significantly at the start of an ally's turn. So whenever your allies move, she would actually not move. She will actually go back more and more. And she would perform assist attacks only when her allies cast basic ability. So when you start off the fight, you're always going to use your second or your third skill, right? Most of the time. You're never ever going to use your first skill because I think most AIs just don't work like that. Which means she will never ever take a turn. She will never ever pursue. She will never assist or anything like that until your allies eventually move to their first skill, which is super weird. Now when Red Chili stacks a certain number of times, she then performs a pursuit attack on all enemies, which is based on attack and HP again, with a chance of inflicting stun for 1 turn. Okay, so this is fine. But the thing is, you need to stack Red Chili a couple of times, which means your allies would need to cast their basic abilities. So like I said, this is kind of weird. Okay, so editor mode right now, I realize how broken this can potentially be. If you use her with Brewster, holy shit. All the assist attacks that he's going to use with his first skill, it's not quite the same as Yun Chuan. It's not going to be the same as Hall as well because they don't assist with their first skills. So Zora, Tang Xuan, for example, Brewster, these are Espers who can channel a lot of first skills. And that is potentially how you can abuse Adrina. I would definitely love to try this out in the PTR server and just like test this dynamic and see whether it's good or not. But of course, if you can spam your basic abilities ASAP, right? Let's say your Avatar sets and all that, then you get her to pursuit attack on all enemies. I think that's not bad. I think that's okay. Now when Red Chili stacks reach the maximum, Adrina gains an extra turn, which means she can finally use her third skill or something like that. And after Ascension, Adrina also removes all of her debuffs. Now Red Chili, each stack increases her attack and crit damage, which is really good. This is an excellent buff to have. But like I said, this thing might be a crutch to a kid, right? Now, ability 3, Warmer's Welcome, deals damage to all enemies based on attack and HP again. Now, the fewer the targets, the higher the damage, and inflicts defense down for 1 turn and grants all allies 10% AP. Okay, so her third skill is not bad. It has defense breaks, but like I said, it's super hard for her to take a turn unless you run her solo, which that could be an interesting concept as well. Now R2, when attacking while not in your own turn, your damage increases by 12%. Okay, that fits a kit entirely. R4, when attacking, 80% chance of ignoring resist, which is essentially the defense break here and the stun that she has on her free pursuit attack, right? And then finally, R6 new covering fire effect reduces the target's max HP capacity when a pursuit attack deals damage. So this is a pursuit attack, not an assist attack. That's a difference, okay? So assist over here, her pursuit attack will be that AoE damage that she does. And that AoE damage would then reduce the enemy's max HP capacity as well, which is completely bullshit. I don't think this is that useful at all. I think, okay, I might be wrong about this. Now, this Esper can be acquired via the event shop when the Warm Winter is running. She will then be added into the Echo after a certain period of time. Alright, so let's move on with the new features. So new features means new content in the game. So added Andras to the Ritual Miracle. So we have the 4th Ritual Miracle, who is not a dragon, unfortunately. I apologize about that. I had no idea that Andras is actually going to be included, and I kind of just got lucky, to be honest. Now let's take a look at Andras' skills, alright? So his first ability, Panic Attack, just reduces a target's AP. That's about it. This might be an AoE attack, I think. Now his second ability, Spectral Companions, calls in all followers for a powerful AoE assist attack. Now if there are no surviving followers, summons new ones at the cost of his HP. So it's very essential that you kill all the followers, right? But my suspicion is that the followers are extremely hard to kill. That's why you need poison over here, which is 4% per pop. And the thing is, if there are no surviving followers, right, he will then summon new ones and he will cut his own HP as well. So it's very important that I think you get rid of the followers as much as possible. Now the third ability, Bone Piercing Thorns, inflicts gangrene on all enemies, which reduces the target's healing received, which is like, okay, fine, this is just a minor debuff in my opinion. Unless this reduces the healing by like 90% at all. Holy shit, man, screw me. Now the passive ability, Eternal Pain, allies become immune to AP down effects, which is essentially the followers that he has. And when attacking targets with a higher crit rate than Andras, this is a main thing by the way, extends the target's ability cooldowns and dispels their buffs based on stage difficulties. Okay, so the thing is, what I understand from this is further evidence that we are going to be needing poison attacks over here, because if you're going to be running cleavers, right, if your Espers have high crit rate basically, right, for more big AoE nukes, whenever the boss attacks you, you're going to get clapped real hard, right? So I think using AoE nukes is probably a bad choice, but maybe Gaius could work because you don't need Gaius to have any crit rate at all unless you're hardcore will. So I think maybe poison is probably like the best choice, but yeah, like I said, Gaius, that might work. Now, new equipment sets. I've actually talked about this in the previous video yesterday, so go ahead and check out the preview video where I discussed about the preview video, and I also talked a little bit more about the sets and what I think about the sets. My thoughts have not changed thus far, except that I'm actually quite interested in chasing for some of the sets over here, like the Brawler set, like the Harmony, the Calamity set. The Holdfast set is also quite interesting, so yeah, these are some of the sets that I'm actually quite curious to know whether they would be good or not right now. And now, second new content in the game, Desolate Lens Shademother is now available. This is like major scuff moment, okay? I've talked about Shademother in yesterday's video as well, a separate video about the Shademother overview. If you haven't already checked it out, you can go ahead and check it out. But I think one other potentially good Esper to include for Shademother is probably going to be Adrina, depending on how she works. But I do feel like maybe her pursuit attacks might make her pretty decent, alright? So we're just going to skip the whole Shademother part over here. Nothing much has changed. Added Manage Formation and Copy Formation feature. So the main thing is going to be Manage Formation. So following the update, players can access the formation management page in the War Room to edit both their instance formation and custom formation. Once saved, these formations can be conveniently applied directly on the Esper deployment screen. Please note that equipment info cannot be saved. Okay, so this part, right, this is what some of you guys have raised in person to me, which is you guys thought that by setting these formations, you would also set your own equipment into those formations. So it's like a preset, for example. That I didn't think that that's going to be the case because that's going to be very complicated, because the moment you switch into that formation, then your equipment sets will be completely busted all around the place, right? Maybe some of your Espers will no longer have their equipment sets here, some of your equipments will be missing over there and that kind of stuff. So I don't think that's going to happen, which is why I do feel like this was actually intended at the start, which is your equipment info will not be saved. So essentially, you're just saving your team formation, that's it. Your equipments will all be based on your current Esper equipments, whatever they have given to them. Now, moving on to new events, take note of the timings over here, right? So the main event schedule is going to be from the 15th to the 1st of September. This is like the main schedule. So do take note that some of the events would not fall within this period as well. So we have the Warm Winter, which is Winter 2022, and then we have the warm-up matches, which starts on the 26th of August, okay, not on the 15th of August. And the warm-up matches spans for 2 weeks, okay, so not 1 week. And this is where you can acquire the Death Guard Hay Triple Hell General skin, which is, in my opinion, not very nice. Then next, we have the Golden City Challenge, which starts on the 29th of August. So it's like really weird timings, right? I mean, like, to be honest, we are still 2 days away from an event that was scheduled for this current update, which is like so weird, which is the Alice Witch event thing, right? I mean, I understand that they want to stagger events, but it's like, why introduce Alice event all the way like 2 or more weeks ago, right? That don't make sense to me, in my opinion. Now, moving on, this is a major news. So we have time limited Echo event for Hilda, obviously. We have also Yunchuan, major hype, and Ife as well. Okay, so Ife clearly because of the new Ritual Miracle Andras, right? So Yunchuan, massive pull here. Definitely try to get him to R2 if you can. I know right now a lot of you guys are dry because we just had Brewster and Embla, but thankfully we had a Breather Banner Lian, and right now we have Yunchuan again. So you guys can probably afford like, I don't know, maybe 1 copy of Yunchuan by now. Hopefully. So yeah, major hype. Definitely try to get Yunchuan to R2 if possible. But big news. So Raven is actually the next Shimmer Legendary probability up. But please do not fall for this trap, okay? Do not fall for the trap thinking that they are not going to cycle in Feng Nusi. Let me warn you right now that they could potentially cycle in Feng Nusi. Just because that they are cycling Raven back right now doesn't mean that they will not put Nusi into the banner. So they might be trying to scam you into thinking that Feng Nusi will not have her banner, but take my word for it, do not fall for the trap. Do not fall for this trap. This is a cash grab right here. This is a scummy move that they are doing to try to trick you into thinking that Feng Nusi will not have her own banner. Do not fall for the trap. Do not just summon because you are thinking that Feng Nusi is not going to come back. Let me repeat myself about this again, alright? Take my word for it. Now, finally, adjustments and optimizations. This is a big change to Thunder and the Light set. Okay, so for the Thunder set, from crit damage plus 40% to crit damage plus 50%, this I think is actually quite needed because most players are not really farming Fafnir all that much. Because I think if you compare between Fafnir and Kronos right now is just so much better. He drops the Wind set, he drops the Recurve set, he drops the Wall set as well. 3 very important sets that are just really good for all kinds of content. So it makes a lot of sense that they want to make Fafnir a little bit more juicy, and he is actually a lot more juicy, not because of Thunder set, but because of the Light set. So as for the Thunder set, grants an extra 30% crit damage when attacking bosses for a total of 80% crit damage, which is insane. So the Thunder set is actually really good for like R2 Tavers out there or like Gaius and all that, right? This is amazing, extremely amazing. But the Light set is actually becoming one of the most broken sets right now because instead of gaining immunity for 1 turn at the start of combat, now, when it expires, all allies gain 10% AP as well, which means if you run your fastest Esper with the Light set, when they take a turn, they're actually not going to push your AP by 30% if they're Unas, they're not going to push your AP by 20% if they're Clara. That is actually going to increase by another 10% because of the Light set expiring, which is insane. This is going to be the new meta for AP pushing comps. Like, this is definitely necessary for any of your AP pushers. You will need very fast Light sets. And yes, I do understand that you can put the Light set on someone else, like your second fastest Esper. It doesn't necessarily have to be your fastest AP pusher. That is also true. You can give it to like your Ether, you can give it to your TF, for example. Those work. But it's also very important to take note of that R6 Hilda will be a problem, which means if your fastest Esper, your Unas for example, doesn't start off with immunity on himself, he's gonna get his ass stunned, slapped, and he's gonna lose his turn instantly. So the Hilda is potentially an issue, especially if you're up against an R6 Hilda, which is going to change the landscape drastically. Like, a lot of your planning, a lot of your focus need to incorporate an R6 Hilda, like far into the future at least, right? I mean, some of the whales right now, they will get an R6 Hilda, but obviously not many players are gonna get an R6 Hilda right now. But I'm just saying, like, maybe like 5 to 6 months down the road where more players are definitely going to get their hands on R6 Hilda, this is potentially going to be a problem. So you need to start farming a lot of Light set and make sure that these sets go to your fastest AP pusher. This is extremely important, looking 5 to 6 months down the road. So Fafnir right now is on par with Kronos in terms of importance just because of the Light set over here. Alright, and I think that's about it. So there are some stuff that the devs didn't care about, which I'm not sure why they actually included it into their patch notes, but yeah. So let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. What do you feel about this update? And I want to discuss a little bit more about some of the things that some players are unhappy about pertaining to Andras and Shademother especially. So that will be in a separate video, but for the time being, just let me know your thoughts about this update right here. What are you hyped about? What are you not hyped about? Leave your raw thoughts down in the comment section below. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed today's content. If you did, don't forget to leave a thumbs up. It really helps the channel, and subscribe for more Dislyte content. Now with that said, this has been Free to Play, and as always, I will see you in the next video.